All right. CIS-332. Anyway. Day 4. All right. This was on January 30th, 17. This was review. We talked again about data converting to information. Obviously, I think that's important. We store bits. Bits become a byte. We can put bytes together to make a character. Characters then can be indicated as a field, or more appropriately, in database world, an attribute. An attribute would be something that defines that character, that character, okay? Put a bunch of fields together, like Mike, Dirksen, birth date, some ID number. Put those all together, and we have a record. We have a record of information about Mike Dirksen. Right? We can mark that with a primary key, which is unique than the Mike Dirksen, so it uniquely identifies me. Okay, so that would be me. We can then look at, like, this is a first name. That would be an attribute that defines Mike Dirksen. Her last name, birth date, all those relate to me in this table. Some entity or table, or sometimes referred to as a file. We'll put a bunch of records together and we got a file, just like in a filing cabinet. Then the whole filing cabinet is a database. And if we're able to relate those entities together, then we have entity relationships. That creates a relational database. All right. Good review. Why? We already talked about this. Databases allow us to keep more accurate information, especially this whole concept of making small, manageable tables and keeping, like, some tables are very static. The information doesn't change very much. And then you can have some tables that are more dynamic. The information changes, okay? So we can be more accurate, remove, we're actually going to talk about here data redundancy coming up. Data redundancy. Access, we can access the data. Now, of course, we're learning. We can access it by the internet, get to lots of different data. We can manage it better in terms of updates, deleting records, adding records, and so forth. We can do that much easier. And then we're more able to secure the data in the database. So when we put this all together, we have a relational database. We're studying this class. We have primary keys. We should know what those are, uniquely identified records. And we're using the management database system. Well, let me state it this way. Database management system. Let me write it that way. That makes more sense. Cross that out. So we're using MySQL, or at least some flavor of that. Now, how does this look in the big picture? Okay, so let me level these out. So somewhere this is a physical database where the data is actually stored on the disk somewhere. We're using MySQL to do that, database management system. Wouldn't jump all the way to the top. To the top, we have users, people. Okay, nowadays, not always, but a lot of ways, they can go to a website, a web server, using some type of code created by a programmer, right? One of those users we talked about the other day, writing SQL, using command lines, can actually set up so they can manage moving this data, actually taking this data and making what out of it for the user? It's a good question. Information. Who manages all these people? Database administrator manages the whole picture, I would say. Experience all the way through. And the data manager would manage more of the processes inside here, making sure they work. How do we do it? We can have a browser. I'm over here on the left. We use a client-server environment. We have our clients contact the server. So we have a user, goes through the firewall, gets what they want, or requests their services through the web services, and the web service works with that physical database to get the information it needs. So, finish up for today. Think about, we have users, and then we have the physical data, and we want to make this experience, the user interface and the user experience, as good as we can, so that we have accuracy and access and those main things. We're creating a database. And so here we have that physical storage, and then somewhere in between here we have a database management system that allows us to logically organize the data to be stored, and then typically here in between here we can, just as an example, use a browser, HTML and PHP. That's what we're going to use. This can be programmed so the user just deals with the browser, and the browser through PHP and programming can deal with the database in which we create tables. That's it. We're going to talk a lot more about this movement throughout the entire course.